I have to remind myself to not do patchwork cardigans again. I thought this was going to be easy, and it just, oh, oh my goodness. I am finally finishing a sweater that was started many, many moons ago. I started to crochet maybe 2008, 2009. When I started crocheting, I told my Oma that I'm into crocheting and I was wondering if she had any crochet hooks, yarn, anything like that that, you know, she didn't need anymore. She was probably like, I'll say in her late 80s at that point. This is the only photo that I could find of my Oma, and that's me in her lap, and I was probably 2 years old. And for anyone who doesn't know, Oma is just the German version of the word grandma. She crocheted, I don't know if she knitted, but my dad said that she crocheted stuff for them when he was younger. She gave me this bucket that has a sales sticker from Zellers that says $5.99. So who knows how old this is. She ended up giving me a bunch of crochet hooks and some yarn. Now, with the yarn that she gave me, she also gave me all of these squares that still smell like her house. Also, my Oma has passed away since. She was, I think, 99 years old, so she lived a really long life. But she had made all of these squares, and I've wanted to do something with them for so long, but I didn't really know what to do with. And when I first got them, I did not know anything about crocheting. I think I learned the Tunisian crochet. I think it's very popular right now, but that's how I learned how to crochet. I don't remember how to do it now. But like when I first learned, I'm like, how's everyone making things like this? Like I couldn't grasp it because I was doing the wrong crochet technique. Anyways, it's finally time to put these squares to use, and I'm gonna make a cardigan out of it. So that'll be like a really nice like little memory keepsake, a project that I guess we worked on together unknowingly. I think she might have been trying to make a blanket. Also, I don't know when she was trying to make this. I got them in 2008, and at that point I think they were like 5-10 years old. I don't know how old these are. I did take them out yesterday, and I was kind of like playing around with them and trying to figure out what's the best way to do it. And when I did my plan, I realized that I am 7 squares short of how I want it to fit. That being said, with the 7 squares short, there's some yarn included, but it's not a lot of yarn. I'm gonna try to make as many squares as I can with the yarn already provided. Another thing that I noticed is the yarn is not all the same. Like this yarn is a very thin yarn, and then this yarn I feel like might be the same, but when I get into the gray yarn is a little is a thicker yarn. The green yarn's a little bit thicker, the blue's thinner, and then also some of the squares aren't really squares, they're rectangles. The squares aren't the same size. So I gotta figure that out. And I don't know if maybe I'll just add on to it, like wherever she ended. I could do that, but I think it's because she probably did the same width and the same everything, but because they're 2 different thicknesses of yarn, you know, if you do the same amount of rows, if you use a thinner yarn, it's not going to be as tall as if you use a thicker yarn. What I do know, it is single crochet. That's great. It's not some fancy stitch that I have to learn. I can just do a bunch of squares. The other thing is that it's not really my color palette. It has a lot of these cooler tones in it. Sure, there's red and like there's this off-white, but everything else is like this really cooler tone kind of thing. So that leaves me to my next question. Do I buy another color, say like an orange or a yellow or something, and make like 7 more squares with that new color? You know what I mean? Another thing that I do have to do for this, even though yes, smelling it smells like my Oma, her house and everything, my nose is getting really stuffed up. So I'm gonna have to wash it. And I went to my favorite yarn store, which is the Creative Knitter in Ridgeway, which I'm always mentioning, and I bought this soap to wash crocheted items with. The brand is called Soak, and you only need like a teaspoon of this for 1 gallon of cold water. I'm gonna be washing these because they need a good wash. And then on top of that, whatever I make with this yarn, which also smells like my Oma, I'm gonna have to wash the squares that I make as well. And then maybe when I wash them, maybe they'll stretch out a little bit. I'm not too sure what they're made out of. I feel like they're just all acrylic. They don't feel like wool or anything like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I have to wash all these squares. I have to make 7 more squares. And then the other thing I do have to do, which I'm not 100% sure yet, is because it is going to be a cardigan, I'm gonna have to put some ribbing on the cuffs and like ribbing on the side and the bottom and like everything like that. And that's another decision that I'm gonna have to make, is what color am I gonna make? make. So I feel like what's gonna happen is I'm gonna have to wash these, I'm going to have to dry them, I'm gonna have to make a few more squares, I'm gonna have to put it all together, and then when it's all together, I can really see what color I wanna go for, because I was kind of thinking maybe like a blue for the cuffs, because I do like this blue. It's a very pretty blue, even though I don't gravitate towards blues as much. I'm pretty sure that's dog hair. My Oma had a pug dog. His name was Benny. He was pretty cute, so I'm pretty sure that's his hair. I'm pretty sure his hair is on all of these. His hair's on that, so yeah, I kind of have to wash it because there's dog hair on that. You know, once a lot more things are done, then I can see what the whole color and the whole scheme goes together, because maybe I'll just go with a plain off-white color, or maybe I'll go with a blue or a green or a red or something. That's yarn that I will have to either look for in my yarn stash, or maybe I'll have to buy, because there isn't enough yarn in here to do the ribbing. So I will have to get yarn for that. But for the most off, that's where I'm starting. Gotta wash these first, make some squares, and then I can start planning everything out. So before I wash them, I was trying to figure out what color I should use for the extra color. I kind of went through my stash, and I was trying to find a color that would match everything together. So I was kind of maybe going towards the warm colors, and then I realized I don't want the red. The red just kind of throws everything off. So I decided to nix the red. I'll use the red squares for a different project, but this means now that I have to make more squares than I thought, but that's okay. See this blue thing? This was one of my first Tunisian crochet projects that I ever did. It was like some weird hat, but anyways, I decided that I wanted to go with a darker type of blue. I was working on a blue one, but this is how much yarn I have, and I have to make it that big. I just don't think it's gonna work, so I'm gonna scrap this blue color of me making any more of them. I have decided that I am going to go to Michael's tomorrow and buy some yarn. I think I'm gonna buy another blue that's kind of the same jewel toned as this green, but like probably just like a medium weight yarn. Also think I might buy like a teal color, so like a combination of the two. We'll see how it looks, because I have to make 7 squares plus 6 squares, so I have to make 13 squares. No, if I want to make 13 blue squares. Well, that's the thing, is that I have this, and maybe that can make a square. I feel like this can make a square. I think I might do this first, because I know this will make a square. This might be able to make a square. I think I'm pulling at straws right now. I don't think that this is enough to make any more squares, and it's probably why my Oma stopped making it, because she ran out of yarn, which makes sense now. Out of all the yarn that my Oma gave me, I only had enough yarn to make one more dark green square. So I got this bin from the Dollarama. It's actually a storage bin, but it was the perfect size just to wash these little squares in. And then I went to the basement and I filled it with a bunch of cold water. And then I added the soap. It wanted like a teaspoon per gallon. I think I put way more than I needed to in there, but it's fine. And then I forgot to get like a wooden spoon or something, so I just stirred it with my hand. I mean, my hands are gonna go in the water anyways, right? Then I just washed all the squares by hand, tried to like, you know, really get the soap in there. It wasn't like soaping up as much as I thought it was going to, but it's fine. I just spent the time washing them all out. Then the directions said to leave them in the water to soak for 15 minutes before rinsing them out. Actually, it told you didn't even have to rinse them out, but I did rinse them. After 15 minutes, I came back to check on them, and you can see how much the water has changed. Like, look at that, right? Yeah, these squares really needed a good soak. Then I did my best to try to dry them out like on a towel, kind of like just squishing them before I was going to lay them flat to dry. So on these exercise mats that I use as blocking boards, I decided to lay out all of my squares and let them dry for, I think, like 2-3 days. And I just used my sewing pins just to pin them down, kind of stretch them out a little bit. It kind of worked, but again, they are acrylic, so stretching them out while they're wet doesn't really help. But I feel like a few of them that were kind of odd shaped, it did help a little bit. Like that little white one in the corner that I'm working on right now, that one was like kind of odd. Like I think she missed some stitches at the end. So when I blocked it, it actually made it a square. So it did work a little bit. While I left those squares drying for a few days, I decided to go to Michael's to pick out some new yarn. I did find this blue one here. I really like it. It's the Sapphire by Loops and Threads. And I wasn't too sure if I was gonna go with that one or if I was gonna go for like more of a vibrant blue or maybe a lighter blue. But I think the Sapphire blue just really works with the color scheme that I want to go for. And then I decided to go with this Off-White by Loops and Thread instead of going by a white because the yarn that my Oma had already used, honestly, it could have been a white at one point, but with the years it might have like, you know, discolored a bit. So I just went with this Off-White color. Okay, so I left these drying. I think I did them Sunday. It is Wednesday, so like 3 days-ish. They're pretty dry. The ones I was more concerned about were these chunkier ones because they're different yarn than these ones. These ones were like a thinner yarn. And these ones are perfectly dry now. So I'm gonna take all of these off today. I also finished the other squares that I've been working on for a really long time. And now I can start assembling them. But before I put them together, I have to figure out how I'm gonna put them together. I think these rectangle pieces I might use on the arms or maybe somewhere on the back, but I have to like lay them out that everything kind of lines up. Otherwise I'll have to make 4 more of these, and I could, but I don't want to. I want to use as much of these squares as I can. I'd like to get them all attached today and even starting on the ribbing because I need to do that today. All right, so these are the squares that I made. Now I feel like they're a little bit smaller than these big green ones, but they're pretty much the same size as these blue ones. So that's what I did. Those are the blue ones. And then these are the Off-White ones. It's always so funny when I'm working with Off-White because when I'm just looking at it by itself, it looks very white. And then as soon as I like compare it to other colors, I'm like, oh, this is Off-White. This is the original one and this is mine. I think it might be too bright on camera to like really see a difference between the two, but they're pretty much the exact same color, like almost the exact same color. So what I have to do now, I have to put them together, but I also have to make sure that no 2 colors line up. That's always fun. Do I also want to swap these 2? Okay, so we can do that. Okay. Basically what I did is I was just kind of playing around with how I wanted the front panels, the sleeves, and the back panel to line up. Okay, so I think I spent 20-30 minutes figuring this out. So this is the layout that I came up with, and I actually accidentally made 1 extra square. I can use this for a different project, it's okay. What I've decided to do with these weird rectangle ones that I was mentioning, they're just really weird shape. Like they're the same height, like I can work with the same height, but the length is a little off. So what I'm doing to balance it out, because I actually have it on both sleeves, is I'm going to attach them like this, and then I'm going to attach these 2 like this, and then what's going to happen is when they're attached, I can't attach them like in the center because this green's a little bit longer and this one's a little bit longer than this way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to off center them. So once those 2 are attached, I'm just going to move it over a little bit. So even though it's going to be a little off in the center there, like that was going that way, that one's kind of going that way, edges will line up, and then when I have to attach them together, it'll be easier to attach. So that's the plan. I finally figured out the arms. Great. Now I just have to sew them all together. Maybe I will attach everything using this black yarn, because for the lighter colors, it's really like only these 2. So I don't want to use white, and then the white is really going to show up in these darker colors. But then I don't want to use like the blue because I need every amount of this blue that I can have. Like this is all I have left of the blue, and I still have to do the ribbing, and I have to do the bottom, and I have to do all that stuff. So I don't think this is going to be enough to attach everything together. So I think I'm just going to use the black and just attach everything in the black. I think that will be fine. Yeah, I guess I'm just going to start attaching everything together now. Wish me luck, because this is the worst part. Time got away from me. Oh gosh, I was going to work on this. I think when I originally filmed this, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It is currently 5:20. I don't know what happened. I took a little break. So I'm like, I deserve it. Had some lunch, but I had to wait for the lunch to be made, so I wasn't gonna start anything while I was waiting for that. And then I watched some TikToks, now I'm here. All right, I have my panels. Those are the two front ones. That's the back one, but it's like, that's not the top of the back one. This is the top of the back one. So when they go like pinched together, this will be lined up with that. And then those are the arms that would connect to this square, and then that one would connect to that square, and same for this. Now I'm going to do the front panels first, and then I'm going to do the back panel, and then I'm going to do the sleeves, and then I have to connect everything. Everything has to be connected tonight because it is Wednesday and this video comes out Sunday, so I need this whole project to be done by Friday so I can film the, oh, here it is. This is what it looked like. So tomorrow I need to spend the entire day doing the ribbing. It's a doozy. The cardigans are a doozy because I have to do ribbing up here, around, down, all the way around, and then on the cuffs. So yay, let's finally start this. I brought Totoro inside for some TV time, and she's sitting on the back panel of my cardigan. Now, right? Yeah, Totoro? Look at her fancy clock. Oh, she is not impressed. Not impressed. So last night I sewed it all together. It took me a really long time. And then I realized that I made the sleeves too small. I mean, yes, the sleeves fit, but I mean, looking at the sleeves compared to the rest of the project, they just look weird. They just look weird compared to the rest of it. I know, like, they look fine. Like, looking at it now, I'm like, what am I talking about? Everything's okay. Here's what I had to do. I went to Michael's. I got home from Michael's now, and now I'm just showing you what it looks like because I discovered this last night, but I wasn't going to film it last night because I was so tired. I need to make the arms bigger. These arms work if this wasn't so big, but because the front is big and the back is big and it's an oversized sweater, the arms just look out of place not being oversized. So remember how I had accidentally made an extra white one? Look where it's coming in handy now. So I need to make 3 more squares because I'm going to add 2 more onto the sleeve. So I'm going to add 2 more here, 2 more here in the colors that I have. So it's the blue and the cream color. Now the blue, I actually had to go buy another one because I wasn't even too sure if I had enough blue to do all the ribbing. But now that I have to make 2 more squares, I know I was not going to have enough for all the ribbing. So I had to go out and buy more. Anywho, I digress. I have to now unstitch both sleeves from the project and unstitch this as well, and then make 3 more squares, attach all the squares, and then I can start on the ribbing because today was supposed to be a ribbing day. I was just supposed to do all the ribbing, and now look where I am. I just have to start making the squares. I finished the ones I had to crochet for today. The other one is over there somewhere. Anywho, I actually ran out of the off-white yarn that I was using, and I thought I had more. This is after I already went to Michael's and bought the new yarn, but I thought I had more because it looked exactly like it. Turns out it was the Pound of Love antique white. And what gets me a little bit infuriated, just a tad, is that I could have used that yarn the entire time, and I would have preferred to use the Pound of Love yarn because it is so soft. But I thought, no, it's not the same color as the yarn that my Oma used. I don't know if you can tell, but like, that's the antique white. This is a different yarn than the rest of the project. So this is the loops and thread, and then right up here is the Pound of Love, and there is ever so slightly a different color, not even that much. So that means the entire time I could have been using the Pound of Love yarn. It's fine. I now have to take apart the project that I just did, just the sleeves, and then put these new ones in. So another little thing that I didn't really take into account, with the new colors lining up over here, I have the 3. I could have a dark blue and I could have a dark blue and they wouldn't be touching. But now, because I have 3, I have to like rethink that. So what I ended up doing is I switched the sleeves. So this was the left arm and it's now going to be the right arm. And I also repositioned it. So I think originally it was supposed to go like this is where the cuff was supposed to be, but now it's going to go like this, and this is where the cuff is going to be, and then this is going to be attached up here. I think that's probably the best thing. This is why like it's good to plan, like color block it, plan it out before you start attaching. So you don't really run into these problems. But again, I wasn't thinking and I thought I could get away with 2 by 2 for the sleeves, and I just can't. It's fine. I can do like 2 lengthways, but it has to be 3 around. I got the one done, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach the one side first, try it on, just to make sure it looks okay before I do the second arm, which, you know, would have helped last night. I'm gonna do the first half, and I'll show you what that looks like, and then I can move on to the second one, and then I can start all the ribbing. It went from being like too tight to real chunky now. This sweater is going to be a real chunky sweater. I was not expecting it to be this oversized, but you know what? It's all I can do. If I were to have taken apart a square, it just wouldn't have worked. It would have been way too small, and you know me, I'd rather it be looser than tighter. So here we are. That's the arm now. It suits it better, okay? It looks more cohesive, it looks chunky. Now, of course, once I put the ribbing, once I put the cuff, I feel like it will tie it all together a lot nicer. This is your warning. If you are making a cardigan like this, do one sleeve first, try it on, see how you like it, and then move on to the second one, or you're gonna end up like me, having to take apart the entire thing instead of just having to take apart half. That's what it's looking like. It's just gonna be a real chunky sweater. So, yeah. I've decided to put buttons on here. I went through my button jar and I just didn't quite find any that really match this. I don't know if I'm gonna have buttons on here by the time I'm done this, like for the video, but what I am doing is I am leaving some like buttonhole spaces. Where is it? It's over here somewhere. So then that way I can add buttons into the future. I like to take these little stitch markers and I will put them right where I know I need to put the opening so I can put the button through, so then that way I don't keep just crocheting and I forget to do that. So I've just put this here, so when I get here I need to make the little button opening, and then I can continue until the next one, etc. That's what I'm doing.
The next day.
Okay, so I just finished all the ribbing on the bottom and on the sides, and now I have to do the cuffs, but I don't think the cuffs are going to take a real long time, mainly because they are so wide that I'm gonna do 5 skips. It's only taking me really long with this because it's been 2 skips. So when I mean skips, so I do 2 slip stitches and then I go up, down, 2 slip stitches, up, down, right? This I'm gonna do 5. I want this to real just, you know, squished in. I have to remind myself to not do patchwork cardigans again. I thought this was gonna be easy and it just, oh my goodness. It's all done now. It is extremely oversized. I'm not gonna lie. It is a little bit more oversized than I would care to make, but here it is. And part of me is like, maybe I should have just made it into a blanket. Oh, this is a doozy. This one was a little bit of a challenge because I went into this project being like, oh, I just need to make like 3 squares and then attach them all together and do a little bit of ribbing and it will be fine. It's a quick, easy project. I spent yesterday so much time working on this. The only way that I can describe of how long I was working on this yesterday is that I watched the entire first season of Stranger Things. From start to finish, just watch the entire first season. I looked it up and it's about 8 hours. It is the best season. When people are like, oh, what's your favorite movie? First off, it's Hot Rod. But then it's the entire first season of Stranger Things. I could literally just sit down and watch it, and that is what I did. I watched the entire first season. I needed a comfort show when working on this. Anywho, it's extremely warm in my room, and this, oh, it's also extremely warm, so I'm gonna be sweating. It does look really cute. Like looking at it on screen, these colors look so cute together. It looks oversized. It looks really cute. It's that thing, you know, when you see yourself wearing it and you see photos, you're like, that's cute, but like wearing it, I feel different about it. Here's the front, and then here's the back of it, okay? There's the back of it. I don't know what else to tell you about the back. I really like the colors that I chose, being this blue and not this white here. This one here was the one that my Oma made, and this is the one that I made, and they're pretty much the exact same color, so I really lucked out with that. They're not precise, like it's not exact, but it's close enough, and that's kind of why I chose to go with a different blue color than try to match another one with white. I feel like it's a little more forgiving. If it's a little off, it's fine, but if I were to choose a blue and it was like a tad bit too bright or too green or too dark, it wouldn't have really worked. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna pick a completely new color. And I had to pick a new color anyways because I needed to make the ribbing on the cuffs and on the sides. So I knew I needed a new color, and I think that this blue, which is I believe Sapphire by Loops and Thread Impeccable, really looks great. It looks great with the green, with the gray. And you know me, I'm not really big into using gray for anything. I'm more, you know, an autumn. I think these colors just look really cute. So if I get really close here, you can kind of see the collar. I had a little bit of trouble with these types of collars because I don't know what to do with them. So this is the first patchwork one I did. They are complete opposites. So like now I have one depending on what colors I want. But this one here was really easy to do because I had added the 5th square in the back. So there's 2, 2, and then the 5th one in the middle. And because I had that 5th one in the middle, it was a lot easier to leave room for the neck and I wouldn't have this awkward little flap here. If you're gonna do one of these, I would highly suggest do a middle panel. So then that way it kind of looks like this and you see how the sides, they kind of line up from the front and the back. And then there's this random 5th one, which you can do your neckline, where these were just so big that I could not put a 5th one in the middle. One, I'd have to make 3 new panels. I was exhausted making those panels. It would have been way too wide. Like, look how wide it is right now. If I would have added a 5th one, it wouldn't have worked. The other thing with this is that if I were to have taken away a panel, so if I would have done 3 in the back and say 2 in the front, this side here would have been way too tight. You saw it with the arm when I just did it 2 by 2. I did not like the fit. It worked. Like, it worked, but it just looked odd is the only way that I can say it. It just looked odd. So adding the one, although it was more work, although it's a lot more chunky now, I like it a lot better. The neck one, I'm not really too concerned about because it's probably just gonna fold over like that. I didn't find any buttons that I really, like, I love a lot of buttons that I have like in my button jar, but they're more on the warmer side. Any of the cooler tone buttons, the ones I liked were way too big. They were like statement piece buttons that you would have, like, say if you have like a really nice coat and you have that big button up here. So they didn't really suit this vibe, but I did leave some buttonholes purposely here, which you can't even notice. If I'm not pointing out them, you don't really know they're there. So in the future, when I find some really cute buttons, I can just attach them to the side and call it a day. And then there's something else that I have to confess. I didn't leave in any of the ends. Didn't do it because I just ran out of time and I didn't feel like it. I kind of weaved in the ends that you would see if they were dangling from here, but I just didn't do it. I'll do it eventually. You see the vision, and that's what I wanted to get done. My notes for the squares. How many blue squares did I make? Why didn't I write this down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I think I've made, we'll say 10 blue squares. Plus all the ribbing. I needed to buy 3 skeins of yarn. I used 2 completely and probably about half of the 3rd one. As for the white squares, I don't think I made as many. I don't know because I can't figure out which ones I made and which ones I didn't. Well, I kind of can tell, but like on screen, they look the same. The white, I did have to buy 2. Well, I didn't buy the second one. I just used other yarn that I had that I thought was the yarn that I used, but it wasn't the yarn that I used. And then I realized I should have just used that yarn for the whole project because I had more than enough. You're gonna need a lot of yarn to make this. A lot of yarn. What I did learn from the other one, so a few months ago I did do a video of me fixing some of the problems with other crochet projects, one being that Fall Out Boy shirt sweater, which I haven't worn yet because it's still a little warm. The other one being the other cardigan, the one that I just showed you. This one is on the bottom. I think I had done 3 or 4 skips and it really cinched it in more than I would have liked it to. So I learned from that one, and this one I only did 2 skips. It's a lot more looser, and I like that a lot better. I didn't want it too tight, so that works. Sleeve length is pretty good. I did add the ribbing on the bottom, so it kind of puffs it up, but I like that, so that's good. It's really warm. I will say it's really, really warm. The squares are not all gonna line up. I didn't make all the squares, so half of them, more than half of them were my Oma's, so she had made them. She was probably 80 years old when she made them, so they're not perfect, but that's okay. That's what I love about these patchwork sweaters, is that they don't have to be perfect because the patchwork. I'm never gonna make one of these again. I am never gonna make a patchwork cardigan again. Okay, maybe in the future, but not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. And I know this because the last one I made, I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna make another one. And then I made this one. And now patchwork, granny square, 2 different things. I will be making granny squares because making a granny square is so simple. It's easy, it's quick to do. Attaching them may be a little bit more difficult, but doing single crochets like this and having to make a ton of them took a lot of time. I give this like a 9 out of 10. Deducting 1 point, because of how frustrated I was with it. But other than that, it's really cute. I'm so glad that I finally was able to use the crocheted squares my Oma had made all those years ago. Again, I don't know how long ago she had made these. I got these squares, I think, back in like 2008, 2009, when I was getting into crocheting at the time, and then they just kind of sat in the bucket for years. For years. I've had them for well over 10 years. Wow, I'm just thinking about that now. These squares have been in my possession for like 15 years and I hadn't done anything with them. So they are at least 15 years old. On top of that, I don't know, because my Oma's dog's hair was on these squares still, and he had passed away well before I got these squares. So these could have been made mid 2000s, early 2000s, but I am just so happy that I was able to take her squares and make them into something that's like new and cute, and it was probably supposed to be a blanket. Here we are, it's a cardigan. The more I look at it, the more I'm like, I really, really like it. Like, if you would have said a half an hour ago, Michelle, you're really gonna like this, I would have not believed you because I was so frustrated with it. But now looking at it, I really love this sweater. If you're new to my channel, like sewing, thrifting, crafting, and of course, crocheting, why not hit the subscribe button? You can follow me on my Instagram, my TikTok, and of course, my Patreon. I think that's it. So y'all have a good day now.